Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic and that you're all having a wonderful day. And without any further ado, there's a lot to cover, so let's jump right into it. Yves Larose, the CEO of the EOS Network Foundation, the organization behind EOS, one of the cryptocurrency projects that used to be extremely popular, has recently announced that the foundation has been restructured. For those of you who were not here back in good old 2017 when the world was slightly normal, there was a cryptocurrency project that kind of appeared out of nowhere that said that they were going to be the brand new Ethereum. This is a constant theme over the course of the history of the cryptocurrency space, where projects emerge and then they say that they are going to be better and stronger and faster than something that already exists. A lot of times years ago, projects used to say that they were going to be better than Bitcoin. But then when they realized that they were never going to become the number one coin and those things kept on faltering, a lot of people simply switched to the idea of, well, we're going to be better than Ethereum. If we can't be number one, we can be number two. And this was only propagated by the idea that XRP multiple times had become the number two coin. So therefore, the space was kind of up for grabs. It just depends on how much momentum that you actually get. EOS emerged and said that they were going to be this grand, amazing, awesome, wonderful platform where you could do anything and everything at any given time, wherever you want. There were price predictions when the coin was 50 cents, that the coin was going to be $1,000. There were ideas, there were podcasts, you name it. We spoke about it here all the time because it was kind of the equivalent of, now imagine this, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, Terra Luna, Cardano, Tron, and some other altcoin all smashed into one. There was no question, if you will, that EOS was going to be the big thing. There were a whole bunch of millionaires and billionaires who were facing off on Twitter and social media saying, I bet you $1.5 million that this coin is going to go to $1,500 per coin in 6 months. You name it, it was a literal mass hysteria. This was mainly because the people from EOS ran an ICO. So there's normally like an IPO when you try to get something on the stock market. An ICO is a coin offering as opposed to a public offering, where basically people could pay in early to get the coins. Ethereum also was part of an ICO as well. However, EOS was so big, other ICOs raised around 7.9 million, 14 million, 22.5 million. EOS raised $4 billion US. That is billion with a B, because the expectations for a year were that this coin was going to be everything. So it had a ton of attention around it, thus the $4 billion, which no other coin has ever been able to do. However, after the coin launched, and it was a really weird launch as well for those of you who remember it. There was a website you had to go to where you could see how much EOS was staked on chain before the chain could get activated. It was something really weird, and you would see it moving up every now and again. And over the course of a week, the little bar was like constantly moving up, and you could see how much more EOS was being put onto it, was being staked, was being held on the network. And then at some point it jumped. It completed. Everything got launched. We heard that it was going to be the most decentralized thing on the entire planet. I think we found out then that there were actually only 21 validators. That is to say, for Bitcoin, the number's unlimited. You can validate Bitcoin transactions right now if you so choose. You could also mine the coin. You could do whatever. However, that number of infinite, like for Bitcoin, got slammed down to 21 only. And we were told that this was because it was more structured this way. It was easier for the community to be able to vote on who was going to be a so-and-so. And then we found out that in order to become one of the 21 validators, you basically had to have more money than the other ones. So there was like a weekly or monthly shift in who were validators, basically based on how many EOS you had, how much money you were able to gobble up more EOS with. And everyone was like, okay, this doesn't seem really fair. About a month or two later, when everyone was like anticipating more and more updates and news and information from Dan Larimer and from all these people who had created EOS, things began to get a little slow. We weren't receiving as much news, as much information. We were told that they were behind the scenes working on it. They had stuff to do. There were all these partnerships, all these things that were coming up. There were, I think, 2 or 3 dedicated podcasts back then that were just for EOS. They began to disappear. There were not as many websites talking about it. There weren't as many coins that were staked. There was a lot of internal fighting that we heard about between the creators and directors. There was allegations of money going missing. When you have $4 billion that these people raised, one can only assume, of course, a couple pennies are going to go missing. And then I think we heard that the creator of it had also left the project. And at that point, everyone's kind of standing there like, you all told us years ago that this was going to be the best project ever. You raised $4 billion and did, as far as we know, jack diddly squat with it. We heard that some of the main people who created the coin had kind of disappeared, maybe moved to an island somewhere. And then at that point, about a year and a half went by with relative silence. EOS kind of dropped off the map. There was still a lot of confusion from a lot of people being like, hey, remember EOS? And then we heard out of the blue that they were going to completely change the entire EOS ecosystem to finally bring to fruition what they said that they were going to do for a very long time. Part of the problem is that at this point, EOS's price had nearly collapsed, about a good 99% or something like that. So I had guesstimated that they were probably only trying to revive the project because they wanted the hype back in the market so that the coin's price could go back up, so that the people who created this coin and were holding hundreds of millions of them could also profit as well. It seems completely logical. You made $4 billion before, did nothing with it. I assume your money's been dwindling and therefore you're trying to figure out a way to like reemerge back into the space. It was then noted, there was something in the news a while ago. I want to say 2021. A while ago. That apparently some of the earlier creators, founders, whatever, working honors of the project, that apparently some of their addresses had been frozen and or temporarily halted. That is to say, we had news that apparently the community, wink, 21 validators, had voted to kind of freeze the money from these other people, basically declaring you did nothing with it, and now you can no longer do anything with it because you kind of missed your chance. We then heard that someone named Yves Larose had stepped into the position of CEO of EOS, and that he was going to try and change everything for the good and bring about this new world where EOS was fantastically wonderful all over again. A lot of this feels like fluff, and I say that with the mentality of we saw Coinbase launch with a couple $100 million backing. They had a lot of money. They launched Coinbase. Look at where they are now. Ripple was a relatively small company. They weren't worth billions before. Millions. Look how far that they've come. Ethereum started around 2015. Look at how large this project became. Many of the people from Ethereum, it was noted years ago, this may just be like an old wives' tale. They were working in Brooklyn, didn't have a lot of money. They found a couple of investors who were willing to give them around $3 million. The coin sprouted. It evolved to where it currently is right now. You name a coin, I can give you a little of the backstory from it as well. No coin up until this point has had 4 billion. And I'll even lower it. No coin has had $1 billion worth of backing. Nonetheless, 4 times that. So to hear that over the last couple of years, these failed promises from these billionaires has simply not worked out, to hear that there's another slew of very rich people who've kind of jumped onto the scene to say, hey, we're gonna be the ones to save the project, and then nothing still has come from it, is very, the word's not cringe, but it's something along the lines over there. For those of you not looking at the screen, this is an article from the 20th of January, the beginning of the year, 2022, which means that this news, like I said, was from around 2021. It says, Dan Larimer returns with a multi-year plan to revitalize EOS. Multi-year, cool, taking a while. Here's another article from the 23rd of August of 2022. Could this crypto skyrocket after its rebranding? They've been trying to tell us that they've been rebranding for a number of years, but apparently, with the small sum of $4 billion, you can't really do that much. According to the CEO's statement, the restructuring took place after careful deliberation and aims to optimize the foundation's activities in line with current financing dynamics. Although the restructuring has impacted some roles, I would say a lot, and initiatives within the organization, La Rose emphasized that the core engineering work around the protocol in the EOS Ethereum virtual machine has been preserved, according to the statement. These vital components will continue to receive the attention and resources necessary to not only survive, but thrive. La Rose expressed his gratitude for the continued support from the EOS community, which he says has been instrumental in their progress. I am flabbergasted how there aren't constant projects who would be working with EOS. I hear nothing about new smart contract implementations. I hear nothing about new coins being put on top of it. I hear, now, hear me out here. I hear nothing about an NFT platform, something on top of it. I hear nothing about EOS except for the news that we get every 6 months that they're working on it. What exactly are they working on something that already works? It's not like EOS is broken. EOS, the blockchain, still continues to work. How is it that other projects that may only, and I say only in this way, only have $100 to $150 million backing or circulating around them, how are they always able to get new projects and new things put on top of them? So anyway, cool. I can, and this is how far I'm going to expect at this point. I would expect or assume we will probably not get some type of wink, definitive EOS news, partnership, upgrade, done, completed, awesome, we're ready to go now news until A, the market starts going back up, which they will then use to kind of make sure that they profit from the other coins also rising and say, look guys, we're like a phoenix from the ashes. Look at how amazing we are. And or waiting until the actual Bitcoin halving has taken place so that they can say, hey, now's the time to start throwing out all the good news, as opposed to the last 2.5, almost 3 years now, when there should have been an avalanche of nonstop news and partnerships and what the restructuring actually was, as opposed to just saying we want to thank the community. Have you made it more decentralized? Have you had any extra airdrops that were going to happen? That was also another thing for those of you who were not here years ago. This was expected to be the airdrop chain. So we were told that apparently, allegedly, there were going to be hundreds of coins who had partnered with and or were building on top of EOS. The idea being, if you hold XRP and Flare has an airdrop, you get Flare tokens based off of the amount of XRP that you have. Therefore, if Boogaloo is airdropping coins on EOS based off of the amount of EOS you have, therefore you would get Boogaloo coins as well. So it was meant to be like an airdrop chain, which would only then further provide more money to the people who were holding the coin. So, very, very interesting how time passes and all these other things. With 300 million, this could be one of the top 10 chains. Nonetheless, $4 billion with a B. This chain should have thousands of projects on it right now. Literally thousands. And I mean a safe 500,000 NFTs minted on it already. That's the EOS is still... No. Apparently everything has been comprehensively restructured. News. Okie dokie. Yeah. Let's move on. Also in It Happens More Often Than You Think news, recently it was revealed that someone, apparently a single person, who was mining Bitcoin, mined block 814,308 by themselves and actually received the entire mining reward. This happens a couple of times per year. Usually when the news comes out, it's documented or stated as something like, whoa, this never happens. I don't know why I did that voice. Or something along those kinds of things. It's always multiple times per year. Mathematically, there's a chance that someone who is mining Bitcoin by themselves will mine the entire block by themselves. It just ends up making big news because normally it's not that common. And if someone does, they're receiving, what is it, like is it like 100K or something like that? No, wait. Yeah, should be over 100K by themselves. Really, heartwarming kind of news. This was also relatively popular because whenever anyone can say, well, this person beat the odds from the other people, it ends up making big news. But it happens several times per year. So whoever they are, congratulations on your newfound wealth. And I hope you become a multimillionaire during the bull run or whatever is going to end up happening. So that was also very popular news. Also floating around out there is, remember I told you like a month ago, I'm seeing so many like rehashings of old news within the cryptocurrency space. And none of them is older than the idea of Bitcoin as some type of like digital gold, an asset that people will hold, governments will hold, banks will hold as a way to base another currency on. A lot of people misconstrue the idea of Bitcoin as digital gold as like no one's using it. The entire idea is meant to be similar to the way that banks used to hold gold and then they like base a currency off of it. So we can only print X amount of currency based off of X amount of gold that we have. The idea of Bitcoin as digital gold is like we would know how much Bitcoin a government or whatever has. And when they print new money, it would only be based off of how much Bitcoin that they're currently holding. And therefore, it would provide a more stable currency. So Bitcoin would be the base and the rest of that sprouts from it would be the, what's the word? Not structure, but it would be more concrete in that Bitcoin is backing it. On top of that, years ago, it was predicted that Bitcoin at some point would overtake gold. And I think a large portion of the reason why this news is renewsing itself is because we are basically at the time frame that people predicted a long time ago that Bitcoin would be able to take over gold and or the US dollar. I can't find the article and it makes me really annoyed. There was a Swiss bank about 3 or 4 years ago, it was definitely before Coco, I want to say 2019, who estimated that by the time Bitcoin got to $250,000, its market cap and structure would be large enough to actually push aside, usurp the US dollar, what have you. And we get the same kind of numbers when it comes to Bitcoin's price rising and having a larger market cap than gold. You must have seen the charts years ago. They show Bitcoin's market cap compared to world banks and governments and how much bigger Bitcoin is than all of these things combined and or separately, yada, yada, yada. But one of the predictions from like 2014, 2015 is that at some point in the future, we must have talked about this like a month ago as well, because it keeps popping up back in the news, is that at some point people will realize that gold simply isn't the right investment and they would start selling off their gold and other precious metals in order to swap it into Bitcoin. For those of you who've never seen this chart, it is a very important chart. If you're not looking at the screen, I'll explain it for those of you who are. This bar right here, is basically if you had put $1 into Bitcoin or gold. It says over the course of 14.1 years. So basically 14 years, if you had put $1 into Bitcoin versus $1 into gold. This gold chart right here, this yellow one that's going up, this is what $1 in Bitcoin would have given you right there. This purple line right here represents that's going down, like literally, a mimic of it, is how much Bitcoin you would need to actually buy gold, I believe. Yes, per 1 ounce of gold. So it keeps going down because the more Bitcoin is worth, the less Bitcoin you need to buy gold. This line at the very bottom that's doing absolutely nothing is gold. Years ago, this wouldn't have made sense and would have been completely like, well, what in the world are you actually, like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Of course, gold is going to be better. But now with 14 years under its belt, and we can see exactly like the numbers, because numbers do not lie. If you had put $1 into Bitcoin, you would have $38 million. That is $38 million. If you had put $1 into gold the day that Bitcoin was released, you would have $1.94. You can't argue with these numbers. There is not going to be a point. There is not going to be a point where gold's price per ounce goes to 15,000. It's not going to 18,000. It's not going to 34,000. It is not going to 70,000. And I can say that with a relative sense of like actuality, because if you watch documentaries, if you watch anything about actual gold mining, since the early 1900s, we have only gotten better at digging further into the ground. We realize that gold is not as rare as people once thought it was because we keep finding more. The more technology we get, the further we're able to dig underground, the more gold that we find. As the years go on, we continue to improve our technology. We can dig even further into the ground and we keep finding that there's more gold than we previously thought before. In the 1800s, this would not be possible. So of course, you dig a couple layers down into the earth and you go, we can't go any further. Gold is extremely rare. But as we keep digging further, and now there are beliefs that, this is also true, but on asteroids, if we start landing machines on asteroids and also start digging within them as they're made from the same thing, all of the universe is made from the same things. Not sure if you all know that, science class. We will also find more precious metals in these things, further showing us exactly how unrare gold actually is. So a lot of the misconception over the last 10 years, especially from that guy, Peter Gold, or whatever this guy's name is on Twitter, is that gold was going to outperform Bitcoin. That's why I don't understand how this man remains popular. I can't imagine being incorrect for 14 years and still have people following me on Twitter. It just would not make any, it would not make any logical sense. $1 in Bitcoin would be $38 million versus $1.94 worth of gold. The expectation is at some point it's going to click for the vast majority of people who are holding gold as an investment, and they will come to realize that their investment has been terrible and they should not have gotten into gold. I don't know if I ever told you the story. I had a good friend years ago. We're not friends anymore. This was 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And he was asking me, he said, you gotta, it wasn't a good paying job, but he was making like adult money. And he was like, okay, what should I put my money into? Because I was always talking about investing. And I said, crypto's extremely risky, but you're still young, so you can put your money into it, what have you. I said, don't put a lot. I can help you with it, yada, yada, yada. He came back to me a couple days later and told me that he spoke with another friend who was really into investing as well. And I said, cool. What'd you learn? I'm expecting to hear that he was going to buy stocks and maybe a couple of like high interest rate bonds, and he was going to make his money back slowly because crypto is too wild for him. Nope. He told me he hung out with this guy who told him that gold was the future. He said, in the future, fiat currencies are going to collapse and the only thing that people will want to use is gold. And I stopped him and I said, you know, that's not going to happen. He said, no, wait. He said, you have to understand, he made so many good points. He kept on telling me that I should buy physical gold and I should hide it under my bed, or I should hide it in a sock and put it into the backyard. Or I should do so-and-so with gold, and I should also buy some silver. And he told me to buy a whole bunch of copper. And I was like, that's not how the world works. And that's not how the world is going to work in the future. So he said, cool, I'll do it this way. He bought a tiny fraction of Bitcoin. And I think he bought half an ounce or something like that of gold. And I remember I saw him a couple of years later, and we had the same discussion over again. And he was like, I wish I had never bought my gold because I understand exactly what you were saying, etc., etc., etc. I've had people here on this channel argue with me before. You can't argue with numbers. It's not like I'm saying something that's completely out of left field. Bitcoin hasn't been around for 6.5 months. If Bitcoin had to just been created, we could have a proper conversation. I can be like, okay, well, we're going to come back here in about 4 or 5 years and see what's actually going on. Gold continues to underperform around the world, and we also see that there are a lot of governments who are also selling gold. You will see articles on investment websites telling you that this random country and that country's buying gold. They're doing it for alternate reasons. It's because usually their economy is so far gone that they're trying to get back in the good graces of the World Bank. On the other hand, we've also seen the amount of people who've been selling their gold physically and their gold ETFs and their gold pieces of paper that they got from a bank that say, yeah, this is gold, here, take it. They're now selling these off as well and putting it into other investments. The idea being that, as we can see the chart in front of us, and gold continues to underperform, that we are going to have more people who know how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and will understand that one of these investments is far better than the other. Bloomberg's intelligence chief commodity strategist, you know his name, Mike McGlone, released a statement on Twitter explaining how the recent tension caused by the expectation of approval of a Bitcoin ETF, which emerged in recent days, has negatively affected gold, which many investors consider a safe haven. I can't imagine it. I watched the documentary. I'm always watching documentaries. It was one that I watched. So for those of you who don't know, I speak a couple languages, and I like watching documentaries in different languages around the world for the countries that I can like actually understand to see like what their citizens are also going through. And I watched one in France, and they were talking about the idea of being able to retire and how many couples will not be able to do so because they're not saving. They never invested. So they were talking to, it was really weird. They were talking to these couples. There was one couple in particular. They were in their like late 50s. Like they had no money saved. They had nothing. It's a documentary from like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And they went to their bank and they were asking what should they do with the 8,000 euros that they actually had saved up. And the guy was like, gold. Gold is your best bet. They were like, what about stocks? He was like, no, gold. Gold's the most amazing thing. And you know, like when you look at like how old the video is on YouTube, I sat there and I was like, this man just lied to them completely to their faces. Like these people have made no money on their investment whatsoever. I didn't expect him to tell them to like throw your money into Bitcoin. At least like some kind of stable stocks that have like dividends that they can build up over the next 10 years so that they can retire in relative peace. Maybe even like some type of bonds, or maybe even like a REIT so that they have, you know, what's the word? Exposure to real estate. This man told them gold, and they put all of their money into gold. He gave them like a little receipt. And at the end of the documentary, they were like we're very excited to see where the world goes. Like, you know, how things will progress And if you think about it now, it's like that was 6-7 years ago. Like these people are still broke. They didn't make any money. They made nothing. And I assume after the documentary, they kept on working, made more money, and bought more gold. Terrible, like terrible investment. Terrible investment. Mike McGlone stated that assets such as gold and ETFs have experienced a clear decline in recent times. The recent developments seem to be related to the soon-to-be-launched spot Bitcoin ETFs within the United States, and the strategist stated that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are growing with the expectation of an approval from the EOS SEC regarding their ETFs. Mike McGlone also made a series of comments explaining why he believes in Bitcoin's superiority over gold. It's basically scarcity. Like you'll hear the same thing over and over and over again. Like we can validate Bitcoin's scarcity. We cannot validate scarcity of metal within the earth. It is like literally impossible to do so because it could be everywhere and also spread out throughout the universe. Like we're expecting as well when we go to other planets in whatever future that might be, we're also going to find these same metals on other planets. It's just not that rare. And then you talk about the idea of like built-in digital scarcity. And we know that there are only going to be 20. This like you have to like the number 21 million is so important. It's so incredibly important. And I know, and I get it once again. I know a lot of you here have been with the channel for a while, so I know that you understand what I'm saying. But please spread the good word to your friends and family members who just do not understand how scarce the number 21 million is compared to 8 billion people. Also, don't forget to, sprinkle in the 5 to 6 million Bitcoin that's lost and gone forever. When this is what I believe. When we hit a $500,000 Bitcoin, a $38,000 Ether, a 42.5 cent dollar XRP, and all these other crazy numbers, like I'm gonna look back at these moments and be like, of course it was going there. Of course this was going to happen. Of course people stopped using gold. Of course people didn't believe that they were going to go into a Rite Aid and knock off a piece of gold from the coin that they have so that they can buy a toothbrush. Years ago, it was predicted that all of this would happen. And I mentioned that at the beginning of this year as well. It's a very pivotal time in life, in the world, as you might have noticed, but also in the cryptocurrency prediction corner. I heard so many predictions of what would happen to Bitcoin in 2024 and 2025 back in 2016 and 2017. The other really big prediction being the 2032 halving at $1 million per Bitcoin. But, we'll get there when we actually have to cross that road. But we're now at the point where you've seen the price predictions. People are estimating that we could potentially see a $250,000, a $300,000, or $400,000 Bitcoin during the 2024-2025 run-up in prices. I'm interested to see the dynamics of the world and what's going to happen should all of these things actually end up taking place. Very, very fascinating time to be on this planet as all of these changes are happening. Like we are actually witnessing history. It's weird to think about it because a lot of times you think of history as like something just in a book. Think of the last 3 years and everything we've been through. All these things are going to be in history books. Understand that anyone born right now, bam, at this moment, in 15 years, when they're reading a book in high school, their history books, or maybe looking at it beamed through their Apple headset, whatever's going to happen in the future, they will be talking about the creation of a brand new financial system that will be completely normal to them. They will only know a world with computers, with internet, and with Bitcoin. Isn't that completely insane? It's wild to think about. Like when I was a little, it's so weird. Anyway, anyway. I was gonna say like when I was a kid, like was when the internet was like just really picking up, And now it seems completely normal to everyone else who was born after it. There was a world without internet. What are you talking about? We are witnessing history, like literally right in front of us. The thing that is beating and taking over gold. $1.94 compared to $38 million. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.